Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Southampton, hosted by the Global Sports Podcast Network. We are joining you after we've just got home from... what did we get home from, Gregory? Miserable night? The worst night?
A wet, fairly miserable display.
I don't want to start off on such a pessimistic note, but that really felt like the turning point. I turned to you at one point and said, look, I know that we've joked about it, and I know that there's still times that we feel like the Great Escape is on, but for me, that pulling his hair, man, that's how our captain got sent off. Let's just get into that straight away.
You called it before the game, I think, when you likened this to Gillingham last season.
It is, yeah.
And you're exactly right, because realistically, going into the game, no one is expecting us to leave this game with a win. Even with our positive predictions, we didn't really expect to get anything from the game.
No.
Half of our team is missing. We're playing Chelsea, who are in form. And yet we're still disappointed because we wanted some players to step up.
Fight, man.
Now, there was some quality, right? Let's pick out the positives, I guess, and start with that, right? Because Matty Fernandez continues to be the best player we have.
Agreed. I could agree with you on that.
Walker Peters never stops putting his all in.
Will be the biggest loss come the end of the season, and I don't blame him for a second if he decides to go, because he is putting his all every single game he's played for us. And he did today. He was one of the only players that I saw at 90 minutes that was still trying to play a game of football.
Cameron Archer seems to be, to me, getting better every game.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Created several opportunities tonight. Joe Aribo was good in spells.
Got a goal.
Got the goal, and he was, put himself about and tried to get the ball forward. And Ryan Manning had a pretty good game.
I think he was at fault for losing his man on maybe the third goal, but the third goal was actually what I would consider a goal of quality.
Yeah.
Most of the other goals were tap-ins because you don't need anything more against us when we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Oh, and Nathan Wood stepped up at centre back and wasn't awful. Has been thrown into a position where he made no more
mistakes than our other centre backs, right? That's kind of where I'm at.
But unfortunately, at 2 minutes 50 into the episode, that's where the positives end. There's nothing else positive to talk about.
No. So as the resident pessimist, who unfortunately does suffer supporting Southampton and had opportunities.
Let's start with it, mate. Jack Stevens.
Right. So I've my personal opinions on him. I've tried to kind of put a lot of that aside because of the fact he's our captain. I don't really like Stevens as a guy, and I know that doesn't matter as long as they play football well. The problem is that he plays football okay, and that's where it ends. He's not the best player. He's not something that I think brings a huge amount to the team. And we were sat talking with your sister-in-law, who was literally turning in. At one point, he started having this before his red card. He was having an argument with Lumley, and it's probably due to the fact that Lumley was bowing to fan pressure a little bit to start hoofing the ball out. Problem is his distribution's awful, so it kept landing in the feet of Chelsea players. Stevens is getting crossed with him to play out from the back, and obviously gets quite wound up, and I can understand that. The problem is when you're our captain, you have younger players, fringe players who are getting an opportunity to shine. You cannot lose your head and pull someone's hair. Are you insane? The second time this season that he's been done for violent conduct.
Well, that's the thing, right? Even taken out of the context, the stupidity of the red card, and the stupidity of the red card when, frankly, he should be one of our only leaders with Adam Armstrong on that pitch at the moment because of the weakened squad we've been forced to play. It's ridiculous, but actually what really puts it home, right, is that it's 3 games for a straight red and violent conduct as far as I can recall. So that means that he's out for the next 3. Now, I guess one of those is a Carabao Cup fixture, but that means that by the time we have played 16 Premier League games this season, he will have been suspended for 8 of them.
It's 50%. That's insane. And
our captain supposed to be the leader on the pitch. And honestly, I hope I never see him in a Saints shirt again. And I don't.
Yeah, agreed.
That's taking
agreed. There's no need. There's absolutely no need for him to play again. And it means that we can stop trying to shoehorn him into a system that doesn't play well for him. you cannot do that. You cannot go into and like, you know, funny enough, you got the owners in front as well. It's just so embarrassing. Like not our captain in the sense of, you know, that's one of the 3-word reviews I think I saw of the game, and that was very, very prominent throughout. You can't do that. You can't cause this. You can't do this twice in the Premier League in a season we're already feeling like we're going to go down. I turned to you today and said, like, look, is it start? You think it's starting to get toxic yet? And you go, well, nah, we're not. We've not heard any sacked in the morning chance yet.
3 seconds later,
On cue,
almost
5 minutes
on
later,
cue.
bang, and I don't really know if that's fair to you know, we do have a lot of injuries. We're missing, you know, we're playing our 4th choice goalkeeper, for goodness sake. But for our captain, who's supposed to be this crux of our squad, who gets it, and my worry is he's going to serve his suspension and walk straight back into the side. And the problem is he's not going to get the reception anymore. And like, for what? And I just don't. I'd never understood why he was given the captaincy anyway, because he wasn't with us during the relegation season. He was he was on loan at one of our rivals, and to do that twice, but like to pull someone's hair, like, mate, what are you doing? Like, it is insane for no reason as well. Like, that's what annoys me the most about it, is the stupidity of it.
It was
It
for a
wasn't for a
corner,
reason.
and a
It
corner
wasn't
that
to
in the
save
end
anything.
didn't even make it past the first man. So it was an
Ugh.
absolute waste.
It's just in, and then, like, you know, the game was weird, and 5-1 maybe doesn't do it justice. And I think some players played better than the scoreline suggests, which
We
I know.
stepped up after Stevens got sent off.
I actually think we played better without him. Ironically, you know, we're joking about how it's harder to play against 2 men. I actually think we played better with 10 men for a long spell. And
It
we've had
almost
some
galvanised
weird
us and
events as
gave us
well.
something to fight for, right?
True. Right. Let's take a breather, and we're going to take a breather hearing about our partners at Zencaster. Oof.
Yeah, so here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencaster came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
Right. So there was lots of football that happened tonight, apparently. Some of it we saw, some of it we did not. It was miserable. The weather was awful. We didn't really plan for that. But there were also some 2 really strange events. So one of which is that at one point the referee disappeared for what we thought was checking a penalty or something, and has gone down the tunnel, and I guess nature called. We're not quite sure. That seems to be the overarching theory, is that bloke needed to go to the loo. You know, unfortunately, nature to all of us, whatever. And there was also a thing which the Daily Echo has already decided to upload pictures of, is that we had a pitch invader. And this was about 5 minutes after I turned to you and went, mate, it seems like Stewart is light today. Uh, which I'm really worried he overheard me and decided
Yeah.
to run onto the pitch. But either way, it was as soon as that incident ended, obviously we had to go back to a game of football, and we conceded a 4th goal. And then obviously a
But the
5th
heads had
where,
dropped at that point, and it
yeah, of
was.
course, it was just...
And I mean, look that we played well in a galvanized way with 10 men, and we put a strong, solid spirit in.
Yeah,
But
until that point, I reckon.
realistically,
But
but realistically, when you're against an 11 men of Chelsea, who you said it earlier, in fact, that one of their players basically is the same cost as our entire squad, especially the team that we had out there today.
yeah, 100%.
But I'm sure we'll get to it in a bit. But we played Yuki Sugawara up front, so.
Mate, we had about 8 defenders on the pitch at one point.
But it was always gonna capitulate at some point. And you're right. I don't think the scoreline is a fair reasoning of the game. We had chances. We had a few shots. We got the ball forward. Even when we were down to 10 men, we were still sort of pretty well in the game. It was done.
No
The
one
game
took
was
no
done.
one took a strike. No one took a strike, and a lot of the players, the people that were brought on to maybe try and change the game. I think we've been worried about the fact that we've got not good enough squad depth. Is, you watched Ben Brereton Diaz play football,
Again,
supposedly. Who again, probably my favourite picture of tonight is actually a picture of the pitch invader, like, shaking hands with him, and him just looking the most dejected man I've ever seen in the world.
still yet to win a Premier League game, by the way.
There you go.
Well above
And
games.
Solomana, who couldn't look less interested to be here. And I'm not surprised. I said to you, like, part of that is probably being the fact that you are being brought on 3-1 down at home against Chelsea. you're probably not going to be happy. But I also just feel like his head must be in the clouds, or alternatively out the door in January. But you start to worry, and the Gillingham game, which we were talking about, is spot on, because it's like that's our squad depth. We spent a lot of money. Some players have turned out real well. Yuki's been up and down, but Matty Fernandez has been utterly fantastic. Cameron Archer's so-so, but as you said, improving. We spent money on Ramsdale, who's been fine up until the fact that up until unfortunately the injury. But then a lot of the other recruitment we've done, like Nathan Wood, was all right, but he wasn't supposed to, I think, be in the squad day to day nowadays anyway.
And look, let's be fair, right? He was in a difficult position tonight, and he stepped up in the best way I think he could. And I don't think I couldn't see the fourth or fifth goal really, because they were so far away from where we sit. But I don't think he was at fault from an obvious mistake for any of the goals, and he did a better job of stepping up to the plate than our captain. And
which is just embarrassing. And that's
fair play.
the
You can't
saddest thing
ask
about
for
it.
more than that, really.
No.
What you want to see is a player playing, and he did. He put he gave it his all and got himself in the positions today, and actually got the ball forward a bit as well at times. And yeah, and look, don't get me wrong, he's not setting the world alight and barking that he needs to make his way into the first team, but he was solid in a team of wild inconsistency.
No, I agree, and I think he did all right. I feel bad for Lumley. Like, his mistakes ultimately have cost him. For a bloke that turned around and said he wants to play for England, and after coming in and we got a draw, he ended up not getting a clean sheet, but he didn't exactly to then concede 5 goals has got to hurt your confidence a little bit.
But also, you've got to say that without him in goal and without the post and the woodwork, it could have been 12. So
yeah, he made a couple of decent saves as well. Like, I feel like he got criticised because of this whole playing out from the back, and style or not, like, the problem is I don't think that was as much of the problem. I
the
feel
problem is
like,
when he lumped it long, when he got frustrated, it still went straight to a Chelsea
yeah,
shirt.
because that was
Just
what
as
you kept
inviting
pointing out.
pressure
Like,
on.
you were shouting around to the fans around us, because a lot of people around us were like, just hoof it, and then he hoofed it, and they're like, what's the point? He's just going to pass it straight to a Chelsea player. So you may as well play it from the back. The problem is, if you're going to let those tensions boil over and you're going to have an argument on the pitch in front of everybody, like, you can see it. None of us are blind or deaf. We can see the fact they were having a row, and then for our captain to go and do that, like, again, I can't get my head around that being the point of just the way the game completely turned and like where our season's turned. It's just such a summary of like our season so far. I think somebody put it, which was like, we had our captain sent off for pulling another man's hair whilst 3-1 down at home on a Wednesday night in the rain. I just
Yeah.
want to. That is a relegation season if you've ever heard of one. And, I don't know. There's a
To see it
combination of
going any
things.
other way, doesn't it?
No, but
I think we've long time really sat on the fence and can see both sides of the argument for Russell Martin, right? And we're kind of at the accepted point where the board probably aren't going to sack him anytime soon. Do you think that because we saw a turn in the atmosphere today for sure? Do you think do you think that changes the answer? Like, I don't see us firing him before the weekend, but do you think
no.
with effectively our, well, not maybe not a full squad because you don't know about injuries, but with our suspended players back and closer to our starting 11 against Villa, does that basically make it finally do or die time for him?
Potentially, but the problem is that my worry is that we're just going to replace him with someone else of championship quality. People talking about us bringing in Rudan Nistroy, people were talking about us bringing Graham Potter. We when we lost Hasenhüttl, went out and bought a championship manager because they don't want to pay for somebody of that level of renown, that level of quality. I just don't think that there's the money there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to keep him. And I don't know. What I can't deal with is what I needed him to come out with is a little bit more than like, I'm so proud of the players, they fought so hard, this, that, and the other. And I'm like,
He
well, yeah, but
defended
also
Stevens, and for that, for
5-1,
me, is
mate.
almost unforgivable. Like,
Yeah, but defending Jack Stevens and saying like, oh, no one will be more disappointed from him. Now I can
it's
tell
not
you who was
true.
disappointed. 30,000 people, also the Chelsea fans that pay week in, week out to come to these games, watch stuff, and then just for him to just make decisions like that twice in a season as supposedly the leader on the pitch. Just disgrace, man.
There was an
I'm so
interesting moment after the game that we stayed and saw where he came over to the Northern fan.
U-turned like
He
mad, didn't
came
he?
over to start applauding, and then he was instant boos and chance was sacked in the morning, and it was he was out of there. He couldn't have left any
Couple of the
quicker.
players actually made an effort. Manning came over, even Joe Lumley came over, Rebo.
And they got
Players you'd
applauded because
expect.
they put the effort in, right? Like they stayed and got the applause from the Northern fans because they were the players that played for the badge tonight and stood out in a team that needed someone to stand out. And Aribo got his goal in the 6th, 7th minute, something like that, and really that was the peak of the night.
Yes, that's where we should have gone home, mate. Not gonna lie,
Yeah.
but that's not how we do things. But right, we'll try and talk about what's to come after a message from our partners at the Global Sports Podcast Network. So, the Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasting, dedicated daily content for every Premier League team, women's football, fantasy football, and a daily Premier League wrap-up, broadcasted in 5 different languages. This is your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find GSPN wherever you find your usual podcasts. Right. I didn't really answer your question as to whether or not I think it's do or die time. I just don't think they'll do anything because of the money. But personally, do we think that we can keep doing this and end up on anything more than 10 points by the end of the season? No, not really. So where I'm at is
I'm still of the opinion that
it doesn't change anything. We're
Saturday's a much
probably
more
down.
important game in the context of the season than tonight was ever going to be with our missing players. Like Chelsea at home is a game that we would have hoped to try and get something from before, basically the spine of our team got removed. So,
What do you see? What do you see going forward? Because we can splash out big in January and we can try and salvage the season, or do you think now we're building for the championship again? As depressing as that sounds, not even being just over a third of the way into the season.
look, we can't be seen to be giving up like that. That would be an absolute disgrace, in my opinion. Yes, it is. It feels very out of reach, but also, we're only 7 points off of safety. It's not unachievable. Like the point tallies around us are still low. Like it isn't. It is. It feels very difficult, but it isn't completely done yet. And we got 4 games now until Christmas, till Boxing Day. If we get 6 points from 4 games, we're potentially right back in the mix. And
6
that
points
feels
from 4
optimistic.
games, but mate, we've had 5 from 42 points. So it's difficult. I understand what you're saying. It's just I really agree. We shouldn't
It's
say
hard,
it's
right?
completely out of
Because
reach because this is such a weird late year. Look at the points around us. It's embarrassing how
we've been
the
good
gulf.
for spells. Like the first 20 minutes of that game, if you take out this is the story of the season. If you take out the 2 stupid mistakes that led to goals, we played well and we're banging the game. And it's stupid mistakes coming back to bite us. But even at 3-1 down, until he got himself sent off, you still felt like actually we had a chance of getting back in it. Like we were still moving the ball about in a way that looked comfortable. We were finding the opportunities. We were getting the ball forward, and obviously the sending off completely changed the game. And until the pitch invader almost ended the game for us.
It was so strange. There's some really strange tidbits
So
of
hard.
tonight.
It must be so hard as a player to be so focused and switched on, and then have to switch that focus. We talked about it with the VAR decision taking so long, right? But then to have to switch off for 10 minutes while seemingly no stewards exist in St Mary's to go and catch this guy. We saw the response team run past us, which was a joke because he'd already been on the pitch for about 13 minutes at that point.
And he would already, by this point, he'd been restrained by a member of the coaching staff, taken off to the side, and then started trying to have a barmy with one of the, I want to say the head steward or something like that. And then the response team arrived, which is nuts. But yeah, on top of that as well, you've got the ref. Obviously nature calls. I get it, but also like that didn't help.
No.
But up to that point, like I think that
Didn't help
if
that
we'd ended the
nobody
game,
seemed to know what was going on at that point.
no,
Like it wasn't even like the players clearly didn't know what was going on
no,
at that
not at
point
all. They
because
thought
they
something was
didn't go
happening.
off for a drink. Like if there's a stoppage in play like that, you'd see them go off, get some fresh tactics from the manager, have a drink, but they were all stood waiting to
Look,
take the corner.
put it out on the mic. At least that way, everyone would have a laugh as well.
Yeah. But it was just we just stood around looking confused, like.
So yeah, there's definitely some weird, just like bad vibes of
Yeah.
those things happening alone, and then also like no offense to Chelsea fans out there, right? But we lose every week. You're nothing special. As we sang to you at the top of our lungs for a solid 5 minutes, it was very funny. Setting off setting off flares, really?
Mad, isn't it?
It's like we're bottom of the league. Come on! I swear half of them
They
just
were
went home to sell out.
clearly just jealous of our pre-match fireworks display, mate. Which you can
I
only
feel
hope is paid
like
for by Amazon, because otherwise
yeah,
that's the Russell Martin leaving do fund blown already, in it. Like,
it's hard to see a way back, and it will. But then also again, like for me, all this has done is prove that if I was Russell Martin right now and I'm ignoring all the noise from the fans, all I would do at this point is walk into the boardroom with the owners and be like, okay, well, you've seen what I've got when I've got all of my best players fit. You've now seen what we have on the bench. I need more money to go out and buy better players because there's some players that you just thought would come good, like Barris and Diaz, and it's just
right, it was doomed from the off, right? Like the lineup was as close to as we could have predicted it, and we spent the first 10 minutes trying to work out what the formation was, and
I don't know where Kyle Walker-Peters played, but he
I was
played
like,
well.
right, I'm looking at it. I'm like, right, okay, Jack Stevens and Wood are centre back. That makes sense. Fine. Breeze out on the right. That's fine. That makes sense. Looks like Manning's left back. There's Kyle Walker Peters playing centre back, holding midfielder, or striker, or left wing, or right wing. And actually, it was kind of all of those things.
So is it
And then,
like where Bournemouth, right, where the first 20 minutes where we played this really weird formation and it was fine, and then we
yeah.
just had an absolute meltdown because we started playing outside of our comfort zone and then just went, I don't know what to do.
And then I noticed that Fraser was on the pitch, which I hadn't even noticed from the team lineup. And God knows where he was playing. I think he was also playing in midfield, and so we were playing like a 4-2-2, where our the holding midfielders were Ryan Fraser and Carl Walker Peters, and then Fernandez and Aribo were sort of in front of that, and then Armour and Archer were sort of in front of that, and it was
Weird.
just a bit odd. But I guess like it is what it is. We haven't got the players. We haven't got the players to play people in their natural positions and put, like you say, by the end of the game, we had about 7 right backs on the pitch, and Ben Burton Diaz, who is, as far as I'm aware, his best position is left back in the changing room.
I
So
I feel like he was playing so awful on the right wing, they put on Sugawara to basically replace him at right wing and just move
but then
him to somewhere
Suarez
in the middle.
played in the middle up front anyway. He was
Well, yeah,
playing
that's
as
my point. I
Foden.
think,
It
well,
didn't make sense.
it
And like,
was. Yeah,
fine.
but at that point,
I mean,
it's just
yeah,
preserving the players for the weekend,
sure,
isn't it?
Sugawara is one of our top scorers of the season because he scored a goal, so why not stick him up front? But also, it's just a bit odd. Like
Well, yeah, but by the end of the game, mate, we had Ronnie Edwards on. We had every single
Charlie
defender under the
Taylor, we
sun. Charlie Taylor
thought we'd
came on
seen
at
the
one
last of
point.
him.
Just yeah, that'll be that. Sure was some players on the field at the end of the game, but clearly by that point he was thinking about the weekend, and that's what we got to look forward to
What do we
now.
see at the weekend? Do you think we ditch Lumley and go back to McCarthy? Just
Probably, well, mate.
dope,
He's
dope
where
his knee up and stick him in anyway?
I feel like when you have conceded 6 goals in 2 games, regardless of the fact that probably some of them weren't his fault, and the
2 of
fact
them
that,
definitely were. In fact, maybe
but
3.
also, as I pointed out to you, the arguments and the not wanting to play out from the back, and if that is what they wanted, like this is the problem that you summed it up. Everyone's like, stop playing out from the back, and it's like, no, okay, that's cool. So he tried not playing out from the back, but wasn't good enough to not kick it directly to a Chelsea player because of the way we play. It just meant that They sent 20, 30 blokes at us at one time. Well, it felt like an army charging at us every single
but then
time.
also playing it out from the back, as I think I turned around to you right at the start of the game and said, nothing but nerves when it's your fourth choice goalkeeper and your fourth or fifth choice centre back knocking the ball between them before it gets out. And yeah,
But that's what I was so that's what I'm saying about when it comes to January. Do they need to start getting the checkbook out and actually looking and getting some quality players? Because our recruitment has been really hit and miss this year. And is that
who's
something
going to
we've got
want
to
to
do?
come to?
Well, yeah, this is your other problem. You're going to have to probably line it up with, okay, so if we go down, you get a pay rise or something. Because this is the other problem, is that we could lose players in January, don't forget. Carl Walker-Peters has been nothing but an incredible servant for the club. And if he doesn't sign at the end of it, I wouldn't blame him at all, because he puts in every single... But if you're surrounded by players that seem to not do that and your own captain is getting sent off for pulling people's hair, I would also probably go, do you know what? I think I fancy it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the other problem. Is you're right. Is who wants to come here? This is how we ended up with Tool Paul in the first place. Remember, he was like our fifth or sixth choice transfer. We had to bring in a striker at the end of that window, and
Now
although
he
he's
might
done
be
the
our
right,
best hope. Him and an 18-year-old boy from our academy.
an 18-year-old boy that once rejected Chelsea. Thank goodness. So that my friend, is where we leave on the positivity. Is that
Right.
Cole Palmer is nothing but a
Rubbish
Tyler Dibbling.
Hopefully we can prove that on Saturday, because we'll have him back and we'll cause chaos for the Villa defence.
I think if that has got to be the lowest point of our season, anything from there is up. And that is where we will go into the weekend.
Let's hope. I mean, we've still got some really tough home fixtures to come.
True, but I am not going to be in the soaking wet to watch this one. So I'll probably feel a little bit better. Right. We have been the Daily Southampton. You have been our wonderful listeners. You can catch us on all the socials: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all that lovely stuff. We will be back with you. Yes, there. We will be back tomorrow with a crossover with the Daily Villa, where I'm sure that they're going to be absolutely buzzing off of their win and full of false positivity. And we will be full of pessimism, which will result in a win. That's what we're hoping for. With all our players back, everyone.
I don't do
Thank you very
pessimism,
much.
mate. You know that.
Thank you very much
6-0
for
on the
joining
weekend.
us.
Calling it now.
And we will see you tomorrow.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.